Hello, everybody. This is Mike Young with aPlantBasedDiet.org, and we're back with another expert interaction video here with Sid Notter, one of our nutrition consultants. Welcome, Sid.
Thanks, Mike. Good to see you again.
Yeah, very good to see you. And I know you and I just had a nice in-person meeting outside of Chicago, where you are, while we were traveling, my wife and I, and you and your husband. It was a fun time at your house, having some real healthy food. And, you know, today we're going to talk about a topic that you and I had discussed ahead of time about myths of plant-based eating, right? Since not everything is necessarily as you think it is. And sometimes, you know, you hear these, I don't mean to say this in any other way than people can understand it, like an old wives' tale maybe, or a legend or lore, and it's not really true, right? So Correct. Maybe you can enlighten us on some of these things that we may be hearing from others that may be either, I don't know, either too optimistic or too pessimistic or somewhere in between.
Sure. I'd be happy to. And these are probably things that you've heard many times as well in your line of work. You know, it's kind of excuses as to why people don't want to make the switch to healthy eating.
Right.
The first one is they think it's too expensive, right? They think that healthy eating is too expensive, which would be true if you're switching from a junk food diet to a healthier junk food diet. So in my book, I talk about this. If you're going to eat sweet potato chips, those are going to be higher than Pringles potato chips. If you're going to eat vegan cookies, those are going to cost more than Oreos, right? If you're going to buy vegan ice cream bars, those are going to cost more than a Good Humor ice cream bar in the store. So just switching to a healthier junk food diet is going to cost more money. I think that's where some of the misconception comes in.
Okay, so would you call that like a vegan tax or a plant-based tax almost?
Well, I never heard of it that way, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I get what you're saying, but that's not ideal. It's not ideal at any level, right? Junk food is junk food, whether it's animal products or plant-based. So if that's the complaint, right? People should maybe look twice at what they're actually eating all the time, I think.
Right. And on a whole food plant-based diet, the words whole food plant-based, those things would not be included.
Right. Very good.
In the junk foods. Excuse me.
Okay, yeah.
So I found a study that backs this up. This was performed by the USDA. They did a study on the cost of healthy foods. Excuse me. And they said that it only appears that healthy foods are more expensive because they were calculated on a cost per calorie basis, which made donuts look cheaper than vegetables.
Oh, yeah, because that's it. Yeah, high caloric density is something that most people struggle with, eating too many foods like that. Yeah, that would make sense. Because the plant-based foods are not going to be as high density, right? So you're going to have to buy more of them. Okay, I see. Yeah.
Exactly. But when the costs are recalculated per edible weight that we eat for the amount eaten, then the opposite is true. The healthier foods are actually cheaper.
Very good.
So that's good news.
Yes.
Also, if you continue to eat out a lot, then you're going to pay more than if you cooked your meals at home. You know, that's another thing to think about.
Yes.
And even there, every cook is different, from the recipes we choose to the brands that we like to buy. Are we buying organic versus conventional? There's a lot of factors there that will impact the cost of your food, even at home.
Mm-hmm. So for what you're saying, though, is if we're comparing someone who's got a poor diet in animal products to a poor diet in plant-based, it probably will be a little more expensive. But if you're comparing an average person's nutritional requirements in animal products versus an average person's nutritional requirements in plant-based stuff, it's probably gonna be less money. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so potatoes, rice, beans, and corns, you know, those are relatively cheap. Although I have noticed that prices are increasing across the board for groceries in our area. Maybe they have been in your area as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then another thing is, do you buy things in bulk? You know, some people do that and they save a lot of money that way. So there's so many factors, but definitely, even if you were, I tell my clients this, even if you were to spend $25 more a month, wouldn't it be worth it? Think of it as redirected spending, because you're not buying the over-the-counter pain remedies and all the stuff to deal with your headaches, you know, and all the problems, you know.
You pay for it one way or the other, right?
Yes, you do.
You might as well do it the way with as few negative side effects as possible, I would think.
Exactly. So healthier foods are cheaper, but can be more expensive depending on your lifestyle. I always say too, once you stock your kitchen with things that we use in plant-based cooking, like nutritional yeast and tahini, it's going to cost money up front to stock your pantry with the staples. Yes. But after that, costs usually always go down.
Including hopefully your unplanned medical costs will go down, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Plus think of it for virus protection, with everything going on in today's world, we want the best immune system we can possibly have.
That's right. And you and I have done a video on that. I think it was probably within the last year, right, on how to optimize your immune system. So that if you want to see that, search the channel and you'll find that with Sid, some great information.
Yeah. So that's one of the biggest myths, is that it's too expensive to eat healthy. Another one is this just going to be too hard, and I get that. This seems overwhelming to people that don't eat this way. But your attitude about this is what's going to make it hard or not, right? Yes, I tell people, don't think of it as hard. Think of it as different, just different than what you're doing. You're going to learn to cook new recipes. You're going to learn to read labels. You're going to learn to make food without adding the oils in. But once you get over that learning curve, it becomes second nature.
Yeah. And I think that I've found anyway that any habit change is difficult, especially in the beginning. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's even something you truly want more than anything in the world. It's still going to be difficult. And that learning process too, actually, it stimulates your brain. I think that you become, just a better learner in general when you learn new things. So especially if someone needs to learn a lot with this lifestyle, I highly encourage it, because you'll be better off no matter what by going through that process. Yeah.
If it's an endeavor that's worthwhile, it's definitely going through the short-term pain to get to the long-term goal. And I talk about that a lot, because a lot of us are pain avoiders, and not physical pain, but anything we perceive as a hassle.
Yes.
If we're going to avoid any type of hassle to learn something new, we're never going to see the outcome or the benefits.
That's right. And I think I believe that it's kind of like getting out of your comfort zone, right? If that's your MO, that you want to use as little energy as possible, as little difficult situations as possible, well, you got to step outside of that. That's where you truly get what you really want in life, is by stepping outside of that just a little bit. And that's what you get here, right?
Exactly. And so they say in this world that the mentality about this is 80% of it, and the skill is 20%, like with most things, right?
Yes.
80% of it is your mentality about it.
That's
so
right.
I'm to the point now where I won't even take on a new client unless I am convinced that they are mentally ready to make changes. Because if they're not, I can't help them, right? We can't help anybody that's not ready to make change.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm glad that you offer services like that for people, because it's really needed, because sometimes that's what folks need is a little extra nudge from someone to, who is there just to assist in that area of change. And that's great. I'm glad you do that.
Yeah. There's a cost to not taking action too, Mike. They think it's going to be such a hassle to take action to change their diet, but there's a cost of not doing it as well. And a lot of people overlook that, a big cost.
That's right. Oh, I absolutely agree.
Time and energy and health.
Yes. Oh, well, health is number one, right? I mean, in my mind, it doesn't matter what else you have in life or don't have. If you don't have your health, it's all meaningless almost.
Right. Yep. And I remember my dad telling me that when I was a little kid, and he didn't eat healthy at all, but he had a lot of health problems. And he used to say, boy, Kook, if you have your health, you've got everything. And I used to think, what is he talking about? Well, now I know.
Right. Well, thank you for, being out here and spreading the word too, because more people need to hear that. And, like you said, even if you didn't get it, even if you're saying it and someone's not getting it right now, at least they're hearing it, because I'd say it's a universal truth. It's something that applies to everyone. Nobody can really escape that.
Yeah. So would you say health is your biggest motivator for eating this way? Would you say that personally?
Yes. If I had to, for people, animals, and planet, which is our slogan, I'd say for human health. Yeah. For me, yes. Because I'm just, as we've discussed in previous videos, I'm just more sensitive than the average person. So something that may take a decade or more to really impact someone negatively seems to do it for me almost immediately. Mm-hmm. And so the knowledge of where I need to go so that my body just doesn't react in such a bad way. And it really lines up with everything you're talking about. So this is so important to tell everyone about.
Mm-hmm. That's my biggest motivator too. It's because I want to stay out of the medical system as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I have a dire family history filled with heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer. My family history is dire, to say the least.
Right.
So that's the big reason that I eat this way too. And I enjoy it. It's not like a sacrifice to eat this way. It's delicious.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's just, to me, it's the same. It's the opposite end of what we just talked about, which is the difficulty of changing a habit, right? I think that the reason why everyone's done this so long is just because it's a habit. It's the easy thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. And like you said, you're doing it now and it's enjoyable. You love it. The food's tasty. You have all these extra benefits. And I think that it's just a matter of a cultural shift that has to take place, which I think we're in the middle of right now.
I hope so. Thanks to you. I mean, I wonder when you even sleep when I see all these Veg Fests that you're promoting.
Yeah, I know. Well, we have opportunities, so we want to be able to get in front of people that really could benefit, which is most people, because most people do not follow this lifestyle. Right.
Okay, another myth is that if a little is good, a lot must be better. And we see that with all the nutrients, right? If a little protein is good for us, then let's eat a ton of protein. That's not good. No, if a little calcium is good, let's eat a ton of calcium. No, that's not good for your health. If a little healthy fats are good for us, let's eat a ton of healthy fats. No, there's a balance on all of that. So I see that a lot. People have that misconception that if a little is good, a lot must be better, and it is not.
Yeah, I totally agree with that on so many levels, not just food, but so many other things in life as well.
Mm-hmm. Another one is that it's too late to start eating healthy, right? If someone's even in their 50s or 60s, they think it's too late to start eating healthy. And that is so false, because your body is always striving to heal all the time. It's striving to heal, and it can do so when we stop pouring fuel on the fire 3 times a day. And when we give it the dietary environment. What'd you say?
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right?
Yeah. So when we give it the right dietary environment to heal, it strives to do that. And I say nobody has ever gotten sick by eating this way. This diet promotes health. It's the only diet that can reverse heart disease, actually unblock our arteries, right? No other eating plan can claim that.
Yeah, and fast too, right? I mean, not only can you start at any time, but I think if you listen to the myth anyway of what you hear people talking about, it's like this is going to take forever in a day, and I'm so old already. I don't have much time left or whatever. But I think that it takes just weeks, as we know. If you truly get into this and you truly follow it, and just you have to make that switch. So you have to stop those old habits, and you have to start new habits. And if you're willing to do that 100%, it's just a matter of weeks, right? So
yeah, and I think the severity of someone's illness could be a factor in how long it takes them to see results. But typically it's quite soon, unless there's some severe illness or they've been sick for a long, long time. Then it might take a little longer, but the body is always striving to heal.
Yeah. And
it never gets worse by consuming the best nutrition on the planet, right?
That's right. And I don't mean to say that someone's going to get healed of all their ailments in 3 weeks or at all, period. We're not saying that, but what I'm saying is that the body's going to start to heal. Like you said, the process is going to reverse. To what degree? Well, that's dependent on a number of factors, like you said, but I also agree that the body, when given the right conditions, heals itself. I think the only time you run into an issue where that may not be the case is if there's been so many bad habits for so long that someone is literally on their deathbed. And at that point, there may not be anything we can do anymore.
Exactly. Right. Yep. Another big myth is that carbs like potatoes are going to make us fat, right? That's a big one. Carbs make us fat. Well, refined carbs with fat in them make us fat, but complex carbs do not make us fat.
Yeah, so there's a big discrepancy. The 2 different types, right? Because you're talking about potatoes. Most people right away think, French fries and potato chips. Right? That's what they're thinking.
Right, which is a refined carb.
Yes.
We're talking about complex carbs, the whole plant food.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although we can make fries healthily, right? We can bake fries in the oven. There's ways to make fries, and we can even make chips. We just don't add the grease and fat to it. We just make chips in the oven.
That's right. It's different. Yeah, I totally get it. Most people I try not to bring that up too much, because then sometimes folks will get confused and they'll somehow walk away with thinking that was okay.
Yeah, right. Oh, I see what you're saying. If you tell them we can still eat fries, just prepared
Yeah.
differently, they think, oh, I can eat fries.
Yeah, but you need like one of those, like we just have, Denise, my wife, just bought an air fryer, and she's been using that to basically cut up potatoes in the air fryer. It's not identical, but it doesn't have any of the oil, and you're not actually singeing everything. It's not you hopefully I don't know for sure, but acrylamides form at 350 and above, so try to avoid those as well. All part of that, making sure that it's done right, because if it's done right, it's okay.
Right. And I point this out in my book. A potato is 1% fat. French fries are 46% fat. Potato chips are 56% fat. So you see the difference there? The trouble's not with the potato. It's the processing and adding grease to the potato that makes it a junk food.
Yes,
Or if you take a potato and you put butter and sour cream and bacon bits and cheese on it, then yeah, the potato is still the potato problem. It's those toppings.
Yes. Yeah. Those are all, like you said, I think similar, right? High percentage of calories from fat. And as we know, and you've discussed before, like, that lends itself right into diabetes, which is almost driven by too much fat. So
exactly. So there's ways to put healthy things on your potato, like salsa or a vegan chili, a healthy soup. There's lots of ways. McDougall's golden gravy is one of my favorites. Lots of ways to healthily top a potato, since we're talking about that.
Yes. Very good.
Yeah. So let's see. Another one would be is that the foods are lacking in protein and calcium, and we know that is not the truth. The plants are the source of protein and calcium. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to mention just that I totally agree with that. But just like anything else, it can be done wrong, right? Like if we don't eat a wide variety of foods, we may not be getting all those nutrients and the varieties of proteins that are in the different plants. If we stick to like a mono meal or something like that, then someone could be right. You may not be getting enough protein, but that's not the way to do it. We don't want to do that.
Yeah. So I think the World Health Organization says we need 5% of our calories from protein. That's all. 6% for pregnant women, which is a low amount. A potato is 10% protein. So right there, spinach is 51% protein, right? 51% of the calories in spinach come from protein. So
Popeye, that's why he eats it.
Yeah. So, and I've heard this said, and it's hard to disprove, that if you're eating enough calories on a whole food, plant-based diet, a well-structured diet, it's virtually impossible to become protein deficient. I mean, people have tried to disprove that and they just can't.
Yes. And you have to do it right. Like you said, as long as you are, totally agree. Yes.
Yeah. Not eating junk food, vegan food, but, a whole food, plant-based diet.
Yes.
And then when it comes to calcium, that's a mineral in the earth, which is absorbed by plants. So we get far more calcium from eating plant foods than cow milk, dairy.
Yes, I know, and that's something that has been drilled into our minds from an early age by the dairy industry that somehow that's not right. I mean, they look at it, they take a positive spin. They say, hey, these cows are great for us. Look what they're doing. But it's just because they're trying to sell us something, right? I mean, that's the business that they're in, and they had a very effective marketing campaign in the past.
They do. And the funny thing is, cows don't inherently have calcium in their milk, nor do they produce calcium. They have calcium because they're eating plant foods, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So we want to eliminate the middleman, which is the cow, and get our calcium from the same place the cows are getting it, from plant foods, or they get calcium fortified food, or something. But cows don't make calcium.
That's right. That's right. Yep. So we got to remember all that. It's all the plants are the source of all that life.
Right. Yeah. And all the nutrients as well. So another one, and we talked about this briefly, or you did, is that this way of eating is not safe for diabetics, when it totally is, right? This can lower A1C levels 3 times greater than the diet prescribed by the American Diabetes Association.
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah. And that's, like you said, again, when done right? Because if someone's on a junk food diet and they go eat all the vegan junk foods, they may still have the diabetes. That's not a good thing.
Yeah. Right. It comes down to the fat. Like you said, fat is the root cause. It clogs up your cells and doesn't allow the glucose to let the insulin enter the cell and all of that. It's the fat that matters.
Yep.
Right.
And of course, all plant foods are naturally lean, with the exception of nuts, seeds, and avocados, right? Which we just need to make sure to use sparingly.
Yeah. And tofu is 40% fat, so that's on my sparingly list. Definitely nuts, seeds, avocados, even olives to some degree, but not a lot, oil's definitely off the plate, right?
Yes.
We know that.
Yeah. When you say tofu, are you talking about a fried tofu, or is this any tofu?
I'm talking about, the blocks of organic tofu, because we only promote whole soy foods, right? We don't want to eat isolated soy proteins. That's where the trouble is.
Okay.
But whole soy foods like soy milk, West Soy is a great brand. The only two ingredients are organic soybeans and water. That's a great soy milk.
Very good.
Tofu, edamame, which are just soybeans, miso, and tempeh. Those are the whole soy foods.
Yes.
And those should always be purchased organic, though, or at least non-GMO for sure.
So tempeh you view as better than tofu. Is that right?
I would say, tempeh can be made with soy foods and grains, or soy food and other products.
Okay.
Tofu is just soy.
Yes.
So.
Got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
But tempeh is fermented soy and with other things added. But I love chocolate pudding made with tofu. And, we just made a tofu. McDougall has a tofu meatloaf that you would think, well, how does that even get texture? But it does. It's delicious. Tofu loaf. It's really good.
Yeah. Very good. And nothing unpalatable about it. That's the other thing. Because when I was a child, I always found meat to be unpalatable, imagining what it was. Right. But if you can have that similar taste experience without realizing what you're eating, it's just plants, right? So that's a benefit as well.
And it's delicious.
Yes.
Barbecued lentil loaf is one of my favorite sandwiches. We even make barbecued ribs, out of seitan or wheat flour. But as well as I do that the foods are yummy.
Yes. Yeah. And hopefully people watching this video are getting this idea. Because I know that at first people are skeptical. They're like, I don't know, because so much of it is like we said, like the milk industry, marketing, and all these things from an early age. And you have to realize, again, why that was being broadcast out to people. It's simply a sales technique for that industry. And once you realize that, and once you understand the true science, right, and the true evidence behind it, then you can start moving over here, or anytime really. But that'll make it final for sure once you've convinced yourself.
Yeah. I mean, we had Elsie the cow when I was growing up. She was the board and spokes cow, a cartoon cow.
Right.
Telling us that we needed milk for good bones. We believed all of that. And we drank milkshakes every single day just to get that.
Right. I know. I was same thing. Well, it took me, it was very hard to unwrap my mind around that concept. It was totally wrapped around that concept, and I had to just reverse it.
Yeah. And you just brought up another good myth, is that the foods are bland and boring, or that, we're going to eat twigs and tree bark and salad and rabbit food. That's all that we eat, right? When they hear plant-based, they can't think beyond the celery and the broccoli, And
I'm still seeing that just within the last few days. Like you mentioned, I'm doing promoting for the Veg Fest that we're doing. And actually, anybody who wants to learn about them, go to ecofest.info, ECOFEST.info. That's a state listing of our events. But I was promoting for the one in Raleigh, which we're doing in a few weeks, actually, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that, Halloween that day. And that was the comment on my post, a picture of a rabbit saying, "That's rabbit food." that was the comment, and I don't know. I've been in this movement for a while, and so have you. I thought maybe we were getting away from that, but just like you're pointing out today, we're not. That's still word on the street for some people for some reason.
Yeah, they don't understand how. And maybe I didn't either way back then. I had no idea how to start cooking this way, but it's a process, right? It's that learning curve that we talked about earlier.
Yes. Yep. And I'm hopeful, as I've always tried to make sure to convey in these videos that we're doing. I feel like things are changing, that the paradigm is shifting. Culture is becoming more aware and awake of everything that is going on and why this is important. So my own thinking is we're just going to keep moving more and more in this direction. So I'm very excited and happy about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for all you do.
Oh yeah, same with you. Yes, it's a collective effort of all of us. Yeah.
So that's all I had for common myths today, unless you can think of any others that you see in your line of work.
There's no myths. I say the one truth I'd say that it's the hardest thing for me when I'm talking with people is that, they say, I just don't want to change, or they don't want to change. They're just not going to do it.
Right.
And there's not really much that can be done about that. There's so many combining factors. They get to a point where someone's mind is closed off to the point that they don't even want to consider this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably a whole episode we could do just on that concept,
Mm-hmm. It's terribly sad that they're willing to sacrifice their health for their taste buds, basically.
Yeah. And as you know, there's a concept of, like, if someone, because I believe that it's only a matter of time until the negative health consequences catch up with the bad habits. If you're not following as you're describing, Sid, okay, if you're following it as Sid is describing, you probably aren't going to have to worry about that. But if you are not following it, it's only a matter of time. I would consider yourself very, very fortunate if you have a nice life and your life is over and you hadn't suffered. That's great. The chances of that happening are probably about as good as winning the lottery, right? Which is why I don't bet my retirement on that.
Right.
So, but the problem is that most people, when the health negative effects finally set in, which they do, then the other thing I see is that people are not willing to give up what made them sick. That's all part of just not being open-minded enough. And that's, like I said, another episode maybe we could talk about. But I'd say a lot of these myths that you're talking about, Sid, here today, probably when you bring them all together as a whole, that contributes to the mind being closed off.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's sad too, because if you wait until you get sick to take action, it's harder. It's much easier to prevent than to reverse.
Yes.
But I mean, you can reverse if you do decide to switch this way. But why wait till you get sick? I don't know.
Because it may not be reversible. And I've seen it myself. The body gets to a certain point where all the body is doing is just shutting down. I think it gets to the point. I'm just speaking, from my own opinion here, that the body requires balance, Sid, like you said, and this is the way to do it. And if you're out of balance for so long, the body just quits. It doesn't want to quit. But if you back it into a corner and you keep telling it you can't do it, it's just going to shut down at some point. And at that point, it's not reversible. So we want to try to get the people before that happens.
Yeah. And I'm amazed at how much abuse the body can take when I see what some of the grocery carts and what people are eating, huge amounts of bad food every day. I'm just amazed at how much the body can fight off and tries to stay on top of things. But I always tell my clients, weight issues and health problems are a normal response to eating abnormal foods. Right? So this probably isn't even your fault. Your body's reacting normally to what you're putting into it. So by switching that's good news, actually, because we can change that.
Yes, it's optimistic. Yep, I agree. So well, thank you for keeping us optimistic, because sometimes when we deal with these types of things, because what we're talking about today is probably how most of society is right now. At least one or more of these things that you've mentioned today is most of society. So, and I think, do you mention these in your book as well? Because you have the Plan A diet, right?
Yeah, a lot of that is mentioned in this book, the Plan A diet, which is on my website, sidnotter.com. And I've just got a brand new webinar too that I rehauled. sidnotter.com/register if you want to know 3 big food mistakes you're making.
Okay, good. Hopefully some open-minded folks are out there listening, and you go right over to Sid's website. And timing's everything, right? So what do you say? It's while the iron is hot. How's the expression go?
Strike while the iron is hot. You got to strike. What does that mean? I'm going to look that up. Strike it with the anvil while the iron is hot.
Yeah, probably something like that. Hopefully it's a vegan expression. As I found out, most expressions are not vegan. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, the average person can relate to that. If you're feeling it, then go to Sid's website and sign up.
Yeah, and I always say the you a year from now will really thank the you of today if you take action.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for all the work that you are doing, Sid, and in this collective movement. And I hope to have another great and insightful and fun video in the near future.
Thanks, Mike. Great to see you.
Yeah, same here. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.